Unemployed and Afraid acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on and of the land where you, the listener, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend our respect to any First Nations, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. Hello, listener. I'm so glad you chose this podcast and me to be in your ears today. By doing so, you're investing in your own business building by connecting and learning from other business owning legends like yourself. And you're supporting me to continue bringing you these stories, which I do just love to do for you. So big wins all round. If you've been listening to some of our chats or you've been here for a while, you already know I'm a big fan of talking about money, about how we're managing the flow of it while building businesses, where investment can come from, how we can grow, all the money stuff. Because I'm not embarrassed to say that financial independence is a huge motivator for me because it represents freedom, the ability to create the work that brings you joy and is good for others and allows you to feel some control over where your income comes from. And we all need money, obviously, we all spend money. And I think making money will feel a lot less overwhelming if we just talk about it and learn from each other a little bit more. It's this and many reasons why I'm a huge fan of the human we get to hear from today. Amy Bett is founder of Lady Without Limits and Melo, and she is, well, bloody lovely, first of all, and she's invested in understanding how to make money work for herself and for others, an entrepreneur and business builder through and through with so much insight to share. And in the sharing of her business story, today you'll hear about facing major life upheavals and the journey of starting over from them, bouncing all the way back from the mismanagement of cash flow, the experience of closing down a business and beginning again, falling in love with the power of managing your money, the ins and outs of putting together a massive project like creating course content, the impact of your own mindset on your journey and getting out of your own way, how we can approach pricing ourselves and our offerings, and how much marketing we actually need to be doing to get ourselves out there. Marketing, my other favorite topic. This episode has so much valuable inspiration, and I know you'll absolutely love it. So let's get into the chat. I'm here today with Amy Bett, a profit-first professional and host of the Lady Without Limits podcast. Amy is dedicated to helping business owners manage their money, master their mindset, and scale their business online. As an expert in the profit first method, she's all about helping business owners take control of their cash flow and reach financial stability, which we are 100% here for. With over 200 successful students in her Money Mastery online program, features on Channel 7 and on the excellent Nova Entertainment Podcast Network. Shout out to my old mates at Nova. Love you guys. Amy believes you can have a next level business and lifestyle without the hustle. Again, we are very here for it. It's a business that evolved from becoming a business owner unexpectedly, with many learnings getting her here, sharing her journey so far with us. Amy, we cannot wait to hear all about it. Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Kim, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited about this conversation with you today.
I am just as excited because we have already covered a lot of topics off air that we didn't mean to get into. So I am excited to finally hear your business story.
Oh, me too. No, I'm very excited to jump right in and just share.
Let's start with a nice fun one. How would your best friend describe you?
I feel like she would describe me as a little bit naughty, to be honest. A lot of people see me as this bright and bubbly, happy person. But when you get to know me, you'll know that I can be a bit naughty. I really love to have a good time and just, I don't know, just have a bit of fun. I swear sometimes. So I feel like that's what she'd say. She'd say, oh, you don't back down.
I like that. You're in the right place. We love a little bit of naughty. We love a little bit of swear. So you are in the right spot. So before Lady Without Limits was such a big part of your world, who were you?
Really, I became a mum when I was 20. So I feel like I've been a mum since I can remember. It's been my identity for so long. Other than being a mum, I've just been someone that has been really in love with my career ever since I hit probably 25, because I had a baby so young, I really missed out on those university crucial days. And I felt like I hadn't had much of an education after high school. I really did drift throughout my high school years as well, just because of some personal challenges and family challenges. So as soon as I hit about 25, I felt like I had a new lease on life. And I really just wanted to dive straight in and make something of myself and really provide for my family.
I can really relate to that sense of drifting through school. I think I left school, I was like 15 and a half. Was it the first chance I had to get out? I was like, I'm out of here. I need to go to work. So I understand that drifting and love for career at whatever age it comes. It really gets under your skin. So tell me about, and I've done some reading on you. So I've seen a little bit about how this came, but I would love to hear the story. Your first business, your event management business, how did that come about?
Yeah, so that came about during a really challenging time in my life. So I used to work for the Cotton On Group, managing fun runs all around Australia. And it was honestly like my dream job. My husband, who I actually met at the Cotton On Group as well, he worked there and we were just in the prime of our lives at that point. We had very stable incomes, not excessive incomes by any means, but we had enough money to do what we wanted to do. And in a short period of, I think, 3 years, we fell in love, got engaged, got married, bought a home. And we were luckily enough to fall pregnant with my second daughter, Annie. And as I was about to go on maternity leave, he unfortunately suffered a football accident and it resulted in a brain injury, which ended his corporate career. So he tried to keep working for a while, but it just became very apparent that this was a long-standing injury and he wasn't able to work in his job anymore. So we went from living the time of our lives to going, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Very quickly, we were going to have no income. He would have a little bit of insurance, but we hadn't been topping it up as his career had been growing and his income had been growing. So he'd get a tiny bit of insurance and I'd get the government maternity leave for, I think that's 18 weeks. But then we were out on our own in a way, and he wasn't well enough to be able to look after Annie exclusively. So I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to think really quickly here. But it wasn't all doom and gloom, because I was really lucky and fortunate to have made some really great relationships within the Geelong community where we're from. And so I just decided at that point that the best way forward for our family was to actually go and start my own event management company. I felt like I had enough of a network here to be able to try and get out there and get some events under my belt and have a bit of flexibility with our lifestyle. And sure enough, we actually did that, which was amazing. It was only a couple of weeks where I had my first phone call and the word had gotten around that I was on my own now. And you know, the likes of Country Road, David Jones, the Cotton On Group, they contracted me as well. And Health Foundation. I was organising all of these incredible events. Some of them were raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for the community. So it looked very successful. And what I was doing was amazing. And I was good at that. But at the same time, I was really struggling on the inside because there was this thing called managing business cash flow that I had no idea about. I had no idea how to do that. And yeah, I learned some big lessons within that 3-year period. And it was, even though I loved being a business owner, I knew that unless I could organize the cash flow properly, I'd struggle for the course of my business.
That must have been a really intense time for you with a young one as well. And even starting this business, all of those things you don't think about, registering a business name and opening up an account and how to invoice people, like all of those really basic line things that you have to do that take up so much headspace. It just would have been so much at once.
Yeah, it was. And I think I went in there a little bit naive because I was managing a multi-million-dollar budget for the Cotton On Group. And to me, that felt easy because it's very black and white. You've got an amount of money, you've got suppliers, you're booking it in, and you've got to keep to that budget, and that's fine. But it's very different when it comes to learning how much to charge for your services or how much tax you need to pay, hiring staff, work cover. There's just so many different elements as a business owner that you are responsible for. And I felt like at the time there wasn't a playbook that just outlined it all out. I really was winging it and just thinking about the service that I was delivering. And it was all about making sure that I was making a next level experience for my clients. And that was awesome, but it wasn't enough. unfortunately.
Gosh, it would have been a lot. How did you then start to move to close down that business? What prompted you? What was that whole process like?
Yeah, so it took quite a while. So I was in the business for 3 and a bit years. And I think over the end of the time, I just started to really reflect on who I was and what I really wanted out of our life. And I got to a point where I felt like I had a lot of personal development and learning to do. So I started to do a bit of spiritual exploring as well and reading a lot of books and just taking care of me, because one thing the events industry does is it's just you're living in with cortisol in your body all of the time, because it's just so fast paced, and you've got a lot of adrenaline going through your body. So I felt like I need to really start caring for myself. I would have actually kept going, but I didn't feel like I was getting the right answers when it came to cash flow. And so in my mind, I was like, if I can't figure this out, I'm just never going to get business right. So unfortunately, business must not be for me. Now, look, that's a lie, which I know now. But at that time, I didn't have that knowledge and that mindset. So I went on this big, as I said, learning journey, and I decided to start teaching other people what I was learning. I'm a health coach with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. So I studied with them. That was the very first course that I did. And it was really good because it was a mix of nutrition, exercise, money, psychology. And I felt like I just needed that at that moment in my life. So I started actually teaching there. And to be honest, for a while there, maybe 2 or 3 years, I didn't know really who I was and what I wanted to teach until I really came across the profit first method. To be honest, when I came across that method, and it was really a fluke, my coach, she was a transformation coach. She was in a hotel room in Paris, and on her bed, I saw the Profit First book, and it just piqued my interest straight away. And I read it. I'm like, oh, Profit First, transform your business from a cash eating monster to a money making machine. I'm like, oh my God, I need that. So I downloaded it on Audible and listened. And truly within about 45 minutes, it's like my jaw just hit the floor. I just couldn't believe that there was such a system that makes money so digestible and so relatable. And I felt like at that point in my life, I truly understood that I could be a successful business owner because I could handle cash flow and I could deliver a great service. That led me to where I am today, teaching business owners how to manage their cash flow. I decided to certify with Profit First Australia, which is a team of accountants and bookkeepers and coaches, because I just saw that it wasn't just me that was struggling with my cash flow. I thought that I was a lone ranger, the one that was not smart enough because I couldn't do it. But the more conversations that I had with people about the way that I was struggling, it's like the floodgates open and people were able to feel a bit more vulnerable and talk about it and say, oh, I'm struggling too. I don't know how to do it either. And I feel like money is such a taboo topic. We all want to look as though we've got all our shit together. But the truth is that 80% of business owners who do fail in their business, it's because of a cash flow problem, which means that we need this education. And so that's when I decided to step in and go for it.
Oh, I love this. And I love that you described what Profit First meant in just a short form there. And we might get into a little bit more of that because the words Profit First are just like music to my ears. We are all here to be financially independent and to make things work for us. And it does just feel like for so many of us who embark in this small to medium to whatever stage our business is at, really have to go back to the beginning with financial literacy. Like it's just something that so many of us don't get taught in those early stages. So like, for God's sakes, where is the financial literacy in high school? Unless you're going on to do commerce degrees and things like that, there are a lot of basics that we don't get told how to manage. And it's scary.
It's so scary. My eldest daughter, she is 14 in a couple of weeks, and it's on my mind so much that she'll be getting her first job soon. And so I've been thinking about, how do I teach her how to manage her money? And I just thought, I'm just going to literally adopt Profit First for your personal life, in her life, from the first time that she gets her own job. Because I know for me, I definitely was not taught financial literacy, and it had a big impact on my life. Yeah, we definitely need to do a better job with our teenagers and our young adults for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And it is still never too late to get started. Thank goodness. So, Profit First, you've gone in, you've become certified. What was that experience like then, bringing that into something of your own and bringing that into a new business for yourself?
Yeah, to me, it was really important because I felt like I had something really tangible to teach people, which I really liked that. There's a real result there with cash flow. But I'm not going to lie, my mindset has really hindered me along the journey of becoming a profit first professional because I'm not an accountant and I'm not somebody who has money has been like my second language. It hasn't been. But thankfully, I have generally a positive mindset and I do the inner work, and I've had to just tell that little voice and that negative energy, the devil, whatever you want to call it, just to bugger off, because all I have to do is to get into a session with someone and I see their aha moments and I see the transformations that they have, and it reinforces to me that I'm in the right place. But even to this day, sometimes I can be like, what am I doing? But yeah, it's worth it because it changes people's lives.
I feel that. We call it imposter syndrome. Eventually, we get there to that stage when we realize it is imposter syndrome, but it just comes in so many forms, doesn't it? I don't want to call myself this, even though I'm doing this thing and I've learnt this stuff. Or in different circumstances, you find yourself really like awkward saying what it is that you do because you don't feel like you have enough credentials. Or are we supposed to wait until we've had 50-year careers in one path to be able to say, I am someone who can help you with your money and your money mindset? Am I supposed to be a podcaster for 10 years before I can say I'm a podcaster and an interview professional? Like, for goodness sakes, we're going to be real old if we wait that long to own our shit.
And it's so funny. I'd go to the Profit First professional meetings, and that does have the accountants and the bookkeepers all in there. And then there's little old me in the meetings. And there's a few other coaches as well. But I'd ask questions and I'm thinking to myself, surely this has to be an answer that's much further forward and more advanced than I'm thinking. And then the answer would just be exactly what I'm thinking. And I'm like, oh, okay, I do know what I'm talking about. It's actually not that hard. And that's what I really love to tell business owners is this method is actually not hard, and money is not hard. It's just a simple process that we need to implement into our businesses so that we're protecting ourselves from spending our money in the wrong way. At the end of the day, it's just a list of bank accounts and understanding how to download your financial reports and reading them and knowing how much money to put in those bank accounts. But it's as simple as 4 steps you can learn in like a week or two and implement pretty quickly. The changes might need to happen over a time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but the actual method and the learning and the philosophy behind it is actually very simple.
I love to hear that. You touched before when you talked about your event management business on the pressures of how to price yourself. And I wondered how that plays a role, I guess, in the position of teaching money and teaching how to manage cash flow, but then also that burning question that comes from so many business owners and may have even come from yourself when you needed to prepare how you were going to charge yourself in this circumstance as well is, how do I value what it is that I offer to the world, and how do I feel comfortable to get it out there and say it? There's just so much unknown with that. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I've learned a different method now than obviously I did previously. I just made it up on the spot. Whereas now I've really learned how to reverse engineer my numbers. And that sounds tricky, but it's not. Really, what I look at is, say, for example, it's a 3-month project. I look at my capacity over that time, and I don't like to charge by hours as we're evolving past that. But I go, okay, how much money do I need over that time? And what is my capacity? How much can I actually physically work? And then I look at that number and then I break it down by the 5 categories that we actually split out our bank account. So, how much is coming in? How much profit do I need to make? What do I need to pay myself out of that? What are the actual operating expenses of the business? And then how much tax do I need to pay? And it seems really, it might seem a bit daunting, but it's not. I've got this easy little calculator and I just put it in and I can just split it out by standard percentages just to get a bit of a rough idea. And when you look at it broken down that way, it's actually very easy to see if you're charging enough or not. Because if you're breaking it down and after the operating expenses of the business or after taxes, if there's not much profit or money to pay yourself, then you're not charging enough. Or if you think that you are capping, because there is a real thing as well about overcharging or capping, getting to the ceiling of what that service might be potentially worth. We don't want to rip people off either, but it might also show you that you need to bring in some other products that aren't going to take up all of your time, or it really can show you how to have different levels of services or products in your business so that as an entirety, your business is able to be profitable and you're able to bring in enough money. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It's something I think about so much, about the exchange of time for money versus the monetizing of either skill sets or products that can move without you physically having to be present and putting your hours into it. Because, yeah, like we only have as much time as we have. And rarely does that equate to as much money as you need to earn to keep yourself really happy and growing in that space. So, yeah, I think about monetizing our potential as business owners quite a lot at the moment. So it's very timely for you to mention. Speaking of monetizing ourselves, with Lady Without Limits, how did you go about finding your first clients and what was that experience like?
Yeah. Again, I got quite lucky with my very first clients in Lady Without Limits. People just, word of mouth just started getting around and people started to contact me. But I found out very quickly that the one on one over a long period of time, the new standard coaching 3-month package wasn't going to work for me. Again, there's only so many clients you can take on and money. And I'm the sole breadwinner of our family as well. So I knew pretty quickly that I needed to actually bring in an online course because it also stopped me from repeating myself the basics over and over again. Like this method, I show people how to tailor it to their business, but the actual structure of the method is the same. So I found Russell Brunson. Have you ever heard of Russell Brunson before?
No, I'll have to put that on my big list here.
Please do. He's amazing. I've learned from him for the last few years now. He has a trilogy of books called .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, and Traffic Secrets. So one is all about how to create online revenue. The next one is about how to speak to your audience. And then the next one is about how to find your audience and bring them to you. So I learned how to create an online course through his teachings. And then I learned through the teachings of those books. And then also I did their One Funnel Away challenge, which is a bit more of an online program teaching you how to set it up. And I just decided to put my head down and my bum up and just do it and get it over with. And it was probably one of the most challenging things I ever did in my life, not because it's technically that hard, but because of that mindset piece again. When you're starting to record your videos and all of that kind of stuff, you can get in your own way. Let me say that. But I did get through it. I persisted. I kept showing up and I got it. And then that really allowed me to then just focus on the marketing element of it and really just serving my community. So now my program, I've got 2 weekly calls with them and I love it. And then we have our Facebook group as well. And then they can buy a one-on-one cash flow session, like a 60-minute session, just to help them to get through anything that they need. And so that's the way that we manage this community. And yeah, I feel really blessed.
That's amazing. And I can almost imagine how that process goes. I'm thinking about the Amy that's like getting this ready and it's like getting all of the course material down and preparing for the video shoots and all of those things. And I feel like on some level I can relate to that because when you have these big projects in front of you, it's every single step is like climbing a mountain and it all feels so clear on the outside. But even just like, where do I start? What plan do I develop? What does the plan look like? Who do I need to share it with? What do I even do first? Was that your experience as well? And even tackling this project?
Totally. Absolutely. It was just because there's handouts to go with it, and then there's video, and then there's announcements, and there's just so many little elements that go into putting that program together. But I just had to tell myself that I haven't come this far to only come this far. I just had to that was just like my little mantra. Like I'm in the thick of it. I'm like, I didn't get to this point to not finish it. So I just had to keep reminding myself of that. And then the other thing is done is better than perfect. So I did put my all into it, but I did realize that at the end of the day, if I didn't get something right, I could just re-record that bit of it, right? Because again, that imposter syndrome going, oh, what if it's not perfect? What if they don't understand it properly? It's just that annoying voice that can hold you back. And I just had to basically keep reinforcing that it was going to all be okay.
Did you have anyone at the time? I'm just interested in this because I feel like I need the reminder constantly. Like you just said, I did not come this far just to go this far. That is like bumper sticker, tattoo on my head. Like, how do I need to get that into my mind? And I'm sure for the listener too, it's like you just have to have that reminder. And I feel very lucky that often it comes through these conversations and this podcast, which is what it's here for. But I'm interested, did you have anyone through that period that helped keep you in check or any methods that helped you stay on top of your imposter and your things that were holding you back?
Look, I was in a mastermind at the time that was very helpful, but at the end of the day, I did find that it was all about mindset. I think one part of me was like, I had to tell myself that I'm the sole provider of my family. So I'm like, you just have to show up no matter what. My kids for a good inspiration going, what do I want to provide for my family? But to be honest, I've got a great group of girlfriends who believe in me, but probably more so because at that time, I remember probably not talking about it too much because I was a little bit embarrassed. To be honest, like again, that was probably at the height of my imposter syndrome at that time when I was recording it. So I was just always obsessed with books, podcasts, just going through those mindset books. And they really did help me to the point where I was such a bookworm that I had to give myself like a 3 or 4 month break from personal development books after a while, because I was too far into it. Does that make sense?
Sometimes, oh my God, so much sense.
You can tip yourself over the edge, I reckon. And so now I feel like I've got much of a better balance, because for a while there, it was all about the business. And I realized that I don't have any personal goals in my life right now. I really didn't. Like, we would get to the weekend and I wouldn't have any plans because I just hadn't thought about it. I was just too focused in the business. That was a really long-winded answer, but there's a balance.
It was one of my favorite answers because, I feel that I love personal development. I love the personal development and the personal undoing that comes along with business. And it's something that too often we don't touch on. And it's usually a lot of how to do this and push yourself to do this. And you've got this opportunity to build this. But what comes along with that is that personal stripping back of any core self-beliefs you've had that might inadvertently hold you back from implementing said program or implementing said business opportunity for yourself. There's so much personal undoing that comes with it. And so I feel really passionately about doing the work too, and like getting into the books and getting into the pods. I'm a big fan of the To Be Magnetic expanded manifestation stuff.
Yeah, Lacey Phillips.
Oh, obsessed with her. Obsessed. I want her to be my best friend. It's not going to happen. That's okay.
You never know. You actually never know.
But love that work. Never know. Lacey, hit me up. And I agree with you. It can get also very isolating when you're constantly working on yourself and breaking yourself down and needing to build yourself back up. That a lot can be said for having a break and just reading some really trashy beach novels instead, which is where I've been for the last month. Just give me all the trashy beach novels, just give my brain a break. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you need it. If there's one book that I can quickly recommend, because I feel like it really does fit very well within the imposter syndrome. And we spoke about it quickly before, but it has been incredibly profound in my life and made a big impact. And it is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And the reason I love that book is because he really explains how we get off track and how we drift and the difference between our other self and our fear self. And it's a really easy read, but it's just so potent. Like, I felt like I was like, oh, I get it now. I get that this is natural, that these voices are coming in to tell me, and I'm believing that they're my thoughts, but they're not my thoughts. So if anybody is looking for a book that could just drastically change how they feel about themselves and the work that they're doing, then that one is a winner.
Amazing. I'm going to make sure that's linked in the show notes, and I'm going to download that one on my Kindle immediately after we hang up. Tell me about stepping into the podcast space and how you got started and what that's taught you about business through this process.
Yeah. So I actually started a podcast with one of my best friends, Maddie Carafa, in 2018. It was called The Healthy Hustlers. And we started that podcast when I was still in my events business, funnily enough. And it was because we were always burning out. We actually worked at the Cotton On Group together. And then Mads came and worked for me in my events business for a while. And again, girls on a mission, achieving things, but we were just constantly burning out. So we decided to start the Healthy Hustlers podcast and go and interview celebrities around Australia, actors, models, singers, you name it. And so we'd fly around Australia interviewing people. And I never forget when we got our first interviews, like we literally had no idea how to start a podcast, even the night before we turned up to our first interview. But we just had that mindset of fake it till you make it. We'll get it. We'll understand it as you go. And that podcast, funnily enough, went to top 5 on the global top charts, #1 health podcast in Australia. It was incredible when we launched, and I learned a lot throughout that process. Like, I could not even get my words out to start with in the first few interviews. So it was a really big learning experience for me. And I think the best thing about podcasting is it allows you to learn how to speak and get comfortable with speaking. Probably the best thing now that I have my own podcast is that it's allowed me to connect with incredible business owners and entrepreneurs and thought leaders. And it's allowed me to connect with my voice. So I love podcasting. I think it's amazing. I haven't actually released any episodes in a while because we're launching this business in the US, but we'll be back on in a few months.
Amazing. I'm sure there's plenty of back catalogue to get into anyway, so we could always go and enjoy that. Tell me, what's challenging you at the moment in your business?
Really good question. Okay, so I've got two businesses right now. So I've got Drink Melo, which is our Carver sparkling beverage, which we're launching soon. And then there's Lady Without Limits. In Lady Without Limits right now, I feel like I'm getting a lesson in money myself, not from managing money, but from a marketing perspective. And I think it's a really good lesson because everyone that I know is going through it to some degree or another. And it's just really teaching me the importance of always marketing and always putting yourself out there, because if you can have all of the bank accounts set up and you can know exactly how much money to put into your bank accounts, but if you don't have the right marketing and the right leads coming into your business all of the time, then guess what? There's no money sitting in those bank accounts to manage. So it's a bit of a combination of I've had a divided focus, particularly in the last couple of months, because I have been putting a lot of startup energy into Melo. And I'm so lucky with the way that I structured my community that I can show up wholeheartedly within the times that I've specified for Lady Without Limits. But then there's that whole marketing element that needs a lot of attention. So yeah, it's been amazing because I've been able to look at different ways of how to go about marketing, like pitching myself to podcasts. For example, Jane, my beautiful VA, has been getting myself another podcast and just thinking differently about marketing. And yeah, it's just so important, as I'm sure you would know.
Oh, I feel you on this. And it's one of those things that I myself find so difficult to put on the top of my priority list. Like you, I know I need to get myself out there. I need to be pitching for PR and I need to be pitching for podcast guesting. I need to be pitching to get on certain lists. But the pressures, again, the undoings of time factor and making it happen. And then also putting yourself out there and the exposure that brings and just that fear that brings up as well. But I couldn't agree with you more that marketing really needs to be almost your first priority of the day is, okay, what's one thing I can do today to try to get myself out there? Is that a post that comes from the heart on the platform that gives you the most return, most bang for your buck? Often say that LinkedIn is one of the most underused and fun places to play for people looking to get themselves out there. Who can help you? How can you get yourself out there? Who can you just send an email to saying, would you like to feature me? This is what I do. It's going to hurt when they say no, which they inevitably will, but you just have to go through the process of doing it. Yeah, I feel that one quite deeply at the moment.
Exactly. I've been doing a lot of research about marketing recently, particularly with AI and how we can make our lives easier with AI as well. But a lot of the big entrepreneurs are just killing it out there. And this is probably going to scare you a little bit, but they say that you need to be focusing on marketing at least 2 hours out of every day. So if you don't have someone working for you and that's not their primary, or you either have someone that is their primary focus, but otherwise, if you're a solopreneur, then it's like you've got to put 2 hours a day into marketing. And it is a bit of a shock reality, because at the end of the day, if there's not the money coming into our business, then the business isn't thriving, and money is really important, as we all know. But it's definitely a mindset shift, because it's the first thing that we put to the back burner, because we're like, no, we're delivering a service, but we need people to deliver it to.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree with this anymore. Let me think about ways to practically bring in the money right now. And I'm so distracted thinking about this silly thing or implementing an admin thing that I have forgotten to tell anybody that I have a service for them to get involved in. That's classic me, having 13 years of advertising experience, yet being challenged at pitching my own podcast for sponsorship. So I feel that.
No, it's very common.
What do you wish more business owners knew at all levels? As you say, solopreneurs, those managing small business with staff, those getting into the medium, larger territory. What do you wish, though, at the core that they knew about finances and cash flow?
Oh, good question. Okay, so one thing is that revenue doesn't mean profit. Now, I know a lot of business owners get trapped into the mindset, and this was certainly me, of when I make $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month and $30,000 a month, then I'm going to be financially free and it's all going to be awesome. But unfortunately, it's not the case all of the time, particularly if you don't understand how to separate your cash flow properly and make sure that you're putting your money in the right places, because as we all know, as our income increases, most of the time, so do our responsibilities and so do our expenses. We need more team to help. We often need more equipment, more subscriptions, more everything. And I don't say that again to make people feel disheartened. Absolutely not, because there are thriving, profitable people that are making so much money, which is amazing. And that's what we want. We don't want you to think, oh, what's the point? But when you do have an understanding of how much money that you should be spending on expenses versus profit and paying yourself, then you can make better decisions. Because often we're not making the right decisions because we don't have the understanding of how much we should be spending on expenses. And to be honest, you can have a marketing campaign, spend $15,000 on it or $5,000 and get the same results. You just can. You just need to do things a little bit differently. So we need to understand how much we can afford to spend and then become resourceful with what we have. And so I literally work with multi-million-dollar business owners that their businesses are about to crumble. Or if they don't make drastic changes, they will crumble. I've seen it, like $5 million, yet they're trading at 100%. And then I've seen startups who have great revenue and great profit, and they feel really safe and they feel awesome. So the biggest thing I want you to know is that cash is important, and get to know how much is healthy for you to be spending in your business and really get intimate with your numbers.
Yeah, I love that advice. I've just started implementing Monday mornings, my finance review days. I write down everything I've spent in the last week, from that loaf of sourdough at the bakery through to editing costs or whatever it is to run my business. And it's awful, but it is so important to understand your position from an absolute baseline up. So I think that is incredible advice. And thank you for sharing. Where do you want to see your business grow to? And I should reframe that and say businesses, mind you.
Yeah. So Melo, I've got really big dreams. Melo, I'd love to see it as $100 million business plus, which sounds crazy, but I can see it. And it's something that, even though I'd never been in the industry before, actually coming on this path, it feels really right. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. I don't really have a financial goal, funnily enough, for Lady Without Limits. I want to help 1,000 women. I want to help 1,000 women by the end of next year, with it, whichever way that is. It's more of an impact level. And I dream about when I can walk the talk and show people how I've actually implemented profit first and these money methods into my Melo business, and kind of talk about that as I'm going and documenting the journey. I really feel like I can even have more of an impact because I can show them. Even though you can show as a profit first professional, I feel like it's more powerful when you can show them this business from its very inception all the way through. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's really exciting. And I like that goal. Like you say, you don't always have to think about it from just a financial perspective. It can be, what impact can I have in whatever way it is? And then how can that financially support you? I think that is just brilliant goals. My very last question for you is, how can the listener and I support you on your goals and with your dreams?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. So I'd love you to come over and follow Melo. We have an Instagram page called Drink Melo, and I'd love you to come and check out what we're doing. It's drink and then Melo is Melo. And then if I can give back to you, to any of the listeners, with learning how to manage your cash flow, then you can visit my website, amybett.com. There's a free masterclass there. I'd love to be able to give back to you and teach you how to manage cash flow.
Amazing. I'm going to make sure to link everything in the show notes, including your incredible new business, Lady Without Limits, your podcast, your website, all of the above, so that the listener can go and support you. We are all about community here, and when we rise all together. So I will make sure to have all of those links and get around and support you. Amy, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you today and hearing just a little bit about your story. I can't wait to see you grow, and just thank you so much for spending the time with me today.
Thank you so much. You've got such a beautiful energy, and I always feel so full after these conversations, and I truly do feel really full right now. So thank you so much for your time and your brilliant questions, and just your energy. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my absolute pleasure. One quick thing. If you're hearing this, you've listened all the way through. Hopefully that means you really like this podcast because it's pretty generous to give up 40 odd minutes of your time for it. If that is the case, please leave the show a star rating and a review. It helps me reach so many more people who might also listen all the way through and get some benefit and some support out of it. Not to mention, it puts a real spring in my step to read them. Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.